Hello folks, Apostle Shalaman here and welcome to the channel. I am fired up today because we're diving deep into a topic that, let's be honest, can either be a massive source of strength in your relationship or, if you're not careful, a real trouble spot. We're talking about money, specifically how you and your partner manage it together. Now, I've seen it all in my years of counseling and guiding folks at good people, loving couples, driven to frustration and arguments simply because they haven't found a system for their finances that works for. It's not always about how much you have, but how you handle what you've been blessed with. Money is a tool, plain and simple. It's there to serve you, to help you build a life, to provide for your family and to be a blessing to others. But like any powerful tool, if you don't know how to use it, or if you and your partner are trying to use it in completely different ways without talking about it, well, you're going to have problems. You wouldn't build a house with one person using metric and the other using imperial measurements without constant communication, would you? Of course not. The same principle applies to your finances. Today, we shall beam view on some spending models that can create a harmonious environment for relationships to prosper. Our goal here isn't to tell you there's only one right way, because every single relationship is unique, just like every individual. What works for your neighbors or your best friends might not be the perfect fit for you and your spouse. But what we do is lay out some of the most common and some of the most effective models for managing household income and expenses. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of each one, so you can make an informed, intelligent decision that brings peace and unity to your financial life, and by extension, your entire relationship. So grab a notepad, get comfortable, and let's get started on building that financial harmony. All right, first up, let's talk about what many folks consider the default or the simplest way to go, the 50/50th split. On the surface, this one sounds incredibly fair, doesn't it? You take all the shared household expenses, the mortgage or rent, the utilities, the groceries, the internet bill, you name it, and you split them right down the middle. Each partner contributes exactly half. If the total bills are $2,000, you each put in $1,000. Simple, clean, and everyone pulls their weight equally. That's the theory anyway. The appeal here is that word equality. It feels balanced. There's a sense that no one person is carrying more of the load for the essential costs of running a home and living life together. This can be particularly attractive to couples who value independence and want to maintain a clear delineation of financial responsibility. It can work, especially if both partners earn roughly the same amount of money and have similar spending philosophies. When incomes are close and the commitment to this method is strong on both sides, it can indeed foster a sense of partnership and shared effort in keeping the household afloat. However, folks, this is where the rubber meets the road and where the 50/50th split can start to cause some serious friction. The biggest glaring issue arises when there's a significant income disparity. Let's say one partner brings home $3,000 a month and the other brings home $7,000. If your shared expenses are, say, $3,000, then each person paying $1,500 means one partner is using 50% of their income just on shared bills, while the other is using just over 21%. That doesn't feel so equal anymore, does it? It can lead to resentment, stress, and one partner feeling constantly broke, while the other has plenty of discretionary income. This model can inadvertently penalize the lower earner, making it difficult for them to save, invest, or even have a little fun money without feeling squeezed. It might discourage one partner from pursuing a less lucrative but more fulfilling career path, or make it harder if one partner needs to take time off for education, illness, or family care. The equality of the contribution doesn't translate to equality of sacrifice or financial well-being, so if you're considering this, you've got to have a real heart-to-heart about whether it's truly fair in your specific situation, beyond just the numbers looking equal on a spreadsheet. Ultimately, for the 50/50th split to foster harmony rather than quiet or loud resentment, transparency and ongoing communication are absolutely critical. If incomes change significantly, you have to be willing to revisit the arrangement. And if one partner is consistently struggling to meet their half, while the other is cruising, you're not operating as a team. You're just two individuals sharing an address and some bills. That's not the foundation for a prosperous, thriving relationship. So think long and hard before defaulting to this one, especially if your paychecks look very different. Now let's move on to a model that tries to address the fairness issue we just discussed with the 50/50th split, especially when incomes aren't identical. This is the proportional split, sometimes called the income percentage method. The core idea here is that each partner contributes to shared expenses based on the percentage of the total household income they earn. So, if you earn 60% of the combined income, you pay 60% of the shared bills. If your partner earns 40%, they cover the remaining 40%. This way, the financial burden is distributed according to earning power. The beauty of the proportional split is that it aims for equality of sacrifice rather than just equality of dollars contributed. If partner A earns $70,000 a year and partner B earns $30,000 a year, your total household income is $100,000. Partner A is earning 70% of that and partner B is earning 30%. So if your monthly shared expenses are, let's say, $3,000, partner A would contribute $2,100. 70% of $3,000, and partner B would contribute $900, 30% of $3,000. This often feels much more equitable as both partners are theoretically left with a proportional amount of their individual income for personal savings, spending, or debt repayment. This model can significantly reduce the financial strain on the lower earning partner, allowing them to breathe a little easier and contribute meaningfully without feeling like they're constantly falling short or sacrificing their entire paycheck just to cover their half. It fosters a sense of teamwork, acknowledging that both incomes, regardless of their size, are valuable contributions to the household. It requires a bit more calculation than a straight 50/50ths, as you'll need to figure out those percentages, especially if incomes fluctuate due to bonuses, commissions, or job changes. But many couples find the extra effort well worth the increased sense of fairness. However, even this model isn't without its potential pitfalls. One discussion point that often comes up is how to define income. Are we talking gross income before taxes or net income after taxes and deductions? This needs to be agreed upon up front. Also, what happens if one partner gets a significant raise? Does their contribution percentage automatically go up? Regular check-ins are vital to ensure the proportions still feel fair and are accurately reflecting the current financial reality. Some might also argue that the higher earner is being penalized for their success, but a team-oriented perspective usually sees it as leveraging individual strengths for the common good. The proportional split, when implemented with open communication and mutual agreement, can be a fantastic way to manage shared finances, particularly for couples with different income levels. It promotes a sense of we're in this together, and each person contributes according to their capacity. It's about shared responsibility that feels genuinely shared. It requires a mature conversation about money, earnings, and what fairness truly means within the context of your partnership. But get this one right, and you've got a solid foundation for financial peace. All right, let's shift gears and talk about a very common scenario, especially in families where one partner takes on the primary role of caregiver for children or aging parents, or perhaps is pursuing further education or starting a business with little to no initial income. This is the single earner model. In this setup, one partner is the primary or sole breadwinner, covering most, if not all, of the household expenses. This is a traditional model for many, and it can work beautifully when there's mutual respect and understanding. The perceived benefit here is often role clarity. One person focuses on generating income, the other focuses on managing the household, raising children, or other vital, non-income generating but incredibly valuable work. This can create a very efficient system if both partners are fully on board and value each other's contributions equally. The stay-at-home partner's work is just as crucial as the income-earning partner's work. It just doesn't come with a direct paycheck. When this is understood and appreciated, there can be a strong sense of partnership and shared mission. However, folks, this model carries significant risks if not handled with care, wisdom, and a whole lot of communication. The most obvious pitfall is the potential for financial dependence of the non-earning or lower-earning partner. This dependence can sometimes lead to a power imbalance in the relationship. The person earning the money might, consciously or unconsciously, start to feel like they have more say, more control because it's their money. This is a dangerous path, folks. Money earned by one spouse in a marriage is our money, not my money. Furthermore, the non-earning partner can feel vulnerable. What happens if the relationship ends? What about retirement savings for the partner who isn't bringing in an income and therefore not contributing to a 401k through an employer? It's absolutely critical in this model that the non-earning partner has access to funds, is involved in financial decisions, and has financial security measures in place like life insurance on the earning spouse and spousal retirement accounts. They shouldn't have to ask for an allowance like a child. They are an equal partner in the venture of your family life. For the single earner model to truly create harmony, there must be absolute trust, transparency, and shared financial goals. The partner who stays home is not doing nothing. They are contributing immense value that would cost a fortune to outsource childcare, home management, and so much more. Both partners need to be on the budget, both need to understand where the money is going, and both need to have a voice. This model requires a deep commitment to viewing all contributions, financial and non-financial, as equally vital to the family's success and well-being. Now we come to a model that many folks, myself included, often lean towards as a strong contender for building true financial unity in a marriage: joint pooling. Simply put, all income from both partners goes into one central shared bank account. From this one pot, all household expenses, personal spending, savings and investments are paid. There's no your money or my money once it hits that account. It becomes our money, plain and simple. This approach is built on the foundation of complete transparency and teamwork. The biggest advantage of joint pooling is the unparalleled sense of partnership it can foster. When all the resources are combined, it forces you to operate as a true financial team. You're both looking at the same numbers, making decisions from the same pool of funds, and working towards the same financial goals. It simplifies bill paying because everything comes from one place. It also makes it very clear what your total household financial picture looks like at any given moment, which is incredibly helpful for budgeting and long-term planning. There's a powerful "we're in this together" vibe that comes with this method. This system demands and therefore cultivates a high level of communication and agreement about finances. You to talk about spending priorities, you to agree on a budget, you to be on the same page about savings goals. If one person is a natural spender and the other is a natural saver, pooling all income forces those conversations to happen, which is a good thing. It brings potential conflicts out into the open where they can be addressed, rather than letting them fester under the surface with separate accounts. Of course, like any system, joint pooling isn't without its potential challenges. One common concern is a perceived loss of individual financial autonomy. If every dime is our money, what about personal spending? What if one partner wants to buy a gift for the other or pursue a hobby that the other isn't interested in? This is where a well-crafted budget within the joint pooling system becomes absolutely essential. You can and should budget for individual fun money or personal spending allowances for each partner, no questions asked, once it's allocated. This gives back that sense of freedom while still maintaining the integrity of the joint approach. To make joint pooling work harmoniously, you need that budget, you need regular money meetings, and you need mutual trust. One person might take the lead on paying the bills, but both partners need access to the account information and involvement in the budgeting process. It's not about control, it's about collaboration. When done right, with clear communication and agreed upon ground rules for spending, joint pooling can be an incredibly effective way to build wealth, reduce financial stress, and strengthen the bond between partners. It truly embodies the idea of two becoming one, financially speaking. All right, folks, let's talk about a very hands-on, tangible way to get your spending under control, and it's a classic for a reason. The envelope system. This is especially powerful if you're struggling with overspending, if you find that money just seems to disappear from your bank account, or if you're new to budgeting and need a very concrete method. The concept is simple. You take your budget categories for variable expenses, things like groceries, restaurants, entertainment, clothing, gas, etc., and you allocate a specific amount of cash to each category for the month or pay period. You get physical envelopes, label each one, groceries, eating out, fun money, and you put the budgeted amount of cash into each envelope at the beginning of the budgeting cycle. Then, when you go to the grocery store, you take money from the groceries envelope. When you want to go to a movie, you check the entertainment envelope. The magic of this system is its stark clarity. When the cash in an envelope is gone, it's gone. That means spending in that category stops until the next budget cycle. No swiping the debit card and hoping for the best. You physically see your money dwindling. The psychological impact of using cash is a huge benefit of the envelope system. Studies have shown that people tend to spend less when they're using physical cash compared to using plastic cards or digital payments. Handing over actual dollar bills feels more real, more impactful than a quick tap or swipe. This system forces you to be incredibly mindful of your spending in each category. It shines a bright light on where your money is actually going and can help you identify areas where you might be consistently overspending without even realizing it. Now, some folks hear cash and envelopes and think it sounds old-fashioned or inconvenient in our increasingly digital world. And yes, it does require a bit more discipline and planning. You have to go to the bank to get the cash, you have to remember to bring the right envelope with you, and you have to diligently put change back. It might not be practical for every single expense. For instance, online bill payments for utilities usually don't fit this model. But for those variable, discretionary spending categories where leaks often happen, it's incredibly effective. The envelope system is a fantastic tool for behavior modification when it comes to spending. It's like training wheels for your budget. Many people use it intensely for a few months to get a firm grip on their spending habits, and then might transition to a digital version or a less cash-intensive method once those good habits are ingrained. If you and your partner are committed to getting out of debt or saving for a big goal, and you're finding it hard to stick to your spending limits, give the envelope system a serious try. It can bring a level of control and intentionality to your finances that you might not have experienced before. Let's talk about a budgeting philosophy that's less about a specific of handling accounts and more about when it comes to allocating your funds. This is priority-based budgeting. The fundamental principle here is incredibly straightforward, yet profoundly powerful. You ensure that your essential needs are fully covered before any money is allocated to discretionary spending or wants. It's about getting your financial priorities in the right order, and that order starts with what I call the 4 walls. The 4 walls are your absolute essential expenses: food, utilities, shelter, and transportation. These are the things you absolutely pay to live and function. So with priority-based budgeting, the very first dollars from your income go towards ensuring these 4 areas are secure. That means your grocery budget is set and funded. Your lights, water, and heat are covered. Your mortgage or rent payment is allocated, and you have the means to get to work, whether that's gas for the car or public transport fare. Only after these core necessities are budgeted for do you even begin to think about other things. This approach brings incredible clarity and security, especially if money is tight or if you're trying to dig your way out of a financial hole. It stops the common problem where people pay for entertainment or new clothes and then find themselves scrambling to cover the electric bill or buy groceries at the end of the month. By front-loading your budget with the essentials, you ensure that your family's basic needs are met, no matter what. This reduces a massive amount of stress and anxiety related to finances. After the 4 walls are covered, you then move to other important priorities, which might include things like insurance payments, minimum debt payments, if you're working a debt snowball, for example, and basic clothing needs. Only then, with whatever is left over, do you start allocating funds to discretionary categories like entertainment, hobbies, restaurants, vacations, or extra debt payments. This hierarchy forces you to make conscious decisions about what's truly important and what you can live without, or at least postpone if funds are limited. Implementing priority-based budgeting requires discipline and a willingness to say no to some wants, at least temporarily, in favor of securing your needs. It's about being a grown-up with your money. You and your partner need to agree on what constitutes an essential versus a want for your household. This isn't always black and white, so good communication is key. But when you operate from this framework, you build a strong financial foundation that can withstand unexpected challenges and keep you focused on what truly matters for your family's stability and well-being. Chapter 7. Independent accounts with joint savings, yours, mine, and ours for goals. Now let's look at a hybrid model that tries to balance individual financial freedom with shared financial responsibility. This is the approach of maintaining independent accounts for personal spending while also contributing to a joint savings and often a joint expenses account. In this setup, each partner typically has their own separate checking account where their paycheck is deposited or where they manage their personal discretionary funds. Then, they both contribute an agreed-upon amount or percentage to one or more joint accounts designated for shared household bills and common savings goals. The big appeal of this model is the autonomy it offers. Each partner has a pot of money that is theirs to manage as they see fit without needing to consult the other for every little purchase. This can reduce friction over differing spending habits or personal preferences. If one person loves collecting vintage teacups and the other loves buying the latest tech gadgets, they can do so from their personal accounts without judgment, as long as their contributions to the joint accounts are met. This can feel very empowering and respectful of individual differences. At the same time, the joint account ensure that shared responsibilities are covered and that you're working together towards common objectives. The joint account for shared expenses would typically handle things like the mortgage or rent, utilities, groceries, and other household operational costs. The contributions to this account could be 50-50, proportional to income or any other agreed-upon formula. Then you'd likely have another joint savings account specifically for goals like a down payment on a house, a family vacation, an emergency fund, or retirement. The potential challenge here is ensuring that the contributions to the joint accounts are fair and adequate to cover all shared needs and goals. It requires clear agreements on how much each person will contribute and regular reviews to make sure the system is still working, especially if incomes or expenses change. There also needs to be transparency about what constitutes a shared expense versus a personal expense. Without clear definitions, you might find disagreements cropping up about who should pay for what. This yours, mine, and ours approach can be a great compromise for couples who value both independence and teamwork. It allows for individual financial expression while still fostering collaboration on the big picture. Success with this model hinges on excellent communication, mutual trust, and a clear written agreement about how the system will operate, including contribution amounts, what expenses are shared versus personal, and how progress towards joint goals will be tracked. It's about finding that sweet spot between individual liberty and collective financial strength. Chapter 8. The Hybrid Approach, Customizing Your Financial Blend. Folks, as we've been going through these different models, you might be thinking, well, I like parts of this one and parts of that one, but none of them feel like a perfect fit for us. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, it's very common. That brings us to what we can call the hybrid approach. This isn't a rigidly defined model itself, but rather the practice of thoughtfully combining elements from two or more of the other models to create a customized financial system that is perfectly tailored to your unique relationship, income situation, and financial personalities. The power of the hybrid approach lies in its flexibility. You get to be the architects of your own financial plan, picking and choosing the components that make the most sense for you. For example, you might decide to use a proportional split for major recurring household expenses, like the mortgage and utilities, because that feels fairest, given your income disparity. But then, for things like groceries, dining out, and entertainment, you might opt for a joint pooling system with a shared checking account and debit card because you enjoy making those day-to-day spending decisions together. Or perhaps you both value individual autonomy for personal spending, so you maintain separate accounts for your fun money and personal splurges, much like the independent accounts model. However, for all shared bills and for aggressive saving towards big goals like getting out of debt or investing for retirement, you pool a significant portion of your incomes into joint accounts that are managed with a strict priority-based budget. You might even incorporate the envelope system for certain troublesome spending categories within your hybrid plan to keep things on track. The key to making a hybrid approach work is deliberate and detailed discussion. You can't just stumble into a hybrid system. It needs to be designed with intention. You and your partner need to sit down and clearly define which aspects of which models you're adopting and how they will interact. What income goes where? Who is responsible for managing which accounts? How will decisions be made for different types of expenses? You almost need to write down your financial operating agreement so there's no confusion down the line. The beauty of this is that it acknowledges that most relationships have unique nuances. Maybe one partner runs a small business with fluctuating income, making a strict proportional split difficult month to month, so you adapt. Maybe one of you is a super saver and the other is learning to be more disciplined, so you build in structures that support both. The hybrid approach allows you to build on your collective strengths and provide support for your individual weaknesses, creating a financial system that truly serves your partnership and your shared vision for the future. It's about being smart, being intentional, and being a team. Now, let's discuss a model that emphasizes complete individual autonomy in finances, often referred to as the financial independence model, or sometimes the separate purses approach. In its purest form, this means each partner manages their own income, their own debts, their own savings, and their own investments entirely separately. They might agree on how to split shared household expenses, perhaps using a 50-50 or proportional method for those specific bills, but beyond that, their financial lives are largely distinct. What one person does with their money is their business, and vice versa. This approach is often favored by individuals who are fiercely independent, perhaps those who have been self-sufficient for a long time before entering the relationship, or those who have had negative experiences with joint finances in the past. It can also be common in second marriages where individuals may have pre-existing financial obligations, assets, or children from previous relationships that they wish to manage separately. The main perceived benefit is the preservation of individual control and freedom over one's own financial decisions and resources. With separate finances, there's less need for constant negotiation about personal spending choices. If one partner wants to make a large personal purchase or a specific investment, they don't necessarily need the other's approval as long as they are meeting their agreed-upon contributions to shared costs. This can reduce day-to-day arguments about money, especially if spending styles differ significantly. Each person is responsible for their own financial discipline and their own financial mistakes, which can feel empowering to some. However, folks, this model can be a minefield for long-term relationship harmony and achieving shared life goals if not handled with extreme care and exceptional communication. While it might reduce squabbles over small personal purchases, it can create a dynamic where you're not truly operating as a unified team. Are you both saving adequately for retirement? Are you aligned on major life goals like buying a house together or funding children's education? If your financial lives are too separate, it can be difficult to work cohesively towards these larger shared aspirations. There's a risk of financial secrecy or a lack of transparency that can erode trust. Furthermore, what happens if one partner experiences a financial setback like a job loss or a major medical expense? If finances are strictly separate, does the other partner step in to help? And how is that navigated without creating resentment or a sense of obligation? This model requires an incredibly high level of trust, maturity, and an explicit, ongoing dialogue about those big-picture financial goals and safety nets. It can work for some, particularly if there are robust prenuptial or postnuptial agreements in place, but it can also foster a roommate mentality rather than a deep financial partnership, which is often not the goal in a committed long-term relationship or marriage. This next concept, shared financial goals, isn't so much a standalone model for day-to-day bill paying, but rather a crucial that should be integrated into whichever spending model you choose. It's about you and your partner sitting down together, dreaming together, and then translating those dreams into concrete, actionable financial objectives that you work towards as a unified team. Without shared goals, your financial efforts can feel scattered, purposeless, and you might find yourselves pulling in different directions. What kind of goals are we talking about? Well, they can be short-term, like saving up for a new washing machine or paying off a small credit card debt within 6 months. They can be medium-term, such as accumulating a down payment for a house in 3 to 5 years, or saving for a special anniversary trip. And crucially, they must include long-term goals, like becoming completely debt-free, funding your children's college education, or building a nest egg that will allow you to retire with dignity and perhaps even leave a legacy. The process of setting these goals together is incredibly powerful for relationship bonding. It forces you to talk about what's truly important to each of you and to find common ground. What does your ideal future look like? What financial steps do you need to take to get there? When you have a clear shared vision, say, we want to be mortgage-free in 15 years, or we want to save $50,000 for our children's education fund by the time they're 10. It provides a strong why behind your daily financial decisions and sacrifices. Having these clearly defined, mutually agreed upon goals makes it much easier to stick to your budget, to say no to impulse purchases, and to motivate each other when the going gets tough. It transforms money management from a chore into a purposeful journey. You're not just not spending money, you're actively saving for our dream home or investing in our future retirement. This positive framing makes a huge psychological difference. It fosters teamwork, cooperation, and a sense of shared accomplishment as you tick off milestones along the way. Regularly reviewing and celebrating progress towards these shared goals is also key. Put up a visual chart. Have goal review date nights. When you see yourselves getting closer to achieving something significant that you both want, it reinforces your commitment to the plan and to each other. It doesn't matter if you're using a 50-50 split, joint pooling, or a hybrid system. If you don't have shared financial goals that you're passionately pursuing together, you're missing out on one of the most unifying and empowering aspects of managing money as a couple. Finally, folks, let's talk about what is arguably the linchpin that holds any and all of these financial models together and keeps them functioning smoothly over the long-haul regular financial check-ins. You can pick the most theoretically perfect spending model for your situation. You can set amazing shared goals. But if you don't communicate regularly about your finances, things will inevitably drift off course. These check-ins are your dedicated time to connect, review, adjust, and ensure you're still on the same page. What does a financial check-in look like? It doesn't have to be a dreaded, hours-long, super formal affair. It could be a weekly 15 to 30-minute chat about the upcoming week's expenses and any budget variances from the past week. It should definitely include a more thorough monthly budget meeting where you review the past month's spending, track progress towards your goals, celebrate wins, identify challenges, and plan the budget for the upcoming month. And perhaps quarterly or annually, you have a bigger picture review of your overall financial health, investments, and long-term goals. The purpose of these check-ins is multifaceted. Firstly, they promote transparency. Both partners stay informed about the household's financial status so there are no surprises. Secondly, they provide a dedicated forum to address any issues or concerns before they escalate into major conflicts. If one person is feeling stressed about a certain spending category or if an unexpected expense has come up, this is the time to discuss it calmly and find solutions together. It's about proactive problem solving, not reactive crisis management. Thirdly, life changes. Incomes go up or down, new financial goals emerge, kids are born, career shifts happen. Your financial plan needs to be a living document, not something you set in stone once and never revisit. Regular check-ins allow you to make necessary adjustments to your budget, your contribution methods, or even your chosen spending model to reflect your current reality. This adaptability is crucial for long-term success and for ensuring your financial system continues to serve your family effectively. Think of these financial check-ins like regular maintenance for your car. You wouldn't just drive your car for years without ever checking the oil or rotating the tires and expect it to run perfectly, would you? Your financial well-being as a couple deserves at least the same level of consistent attention and care. Schedule these meetings, make them a non-negotiable part of your routine, and approach them with a spirit of teamwork and mutual respect. This consistent communication is the secret sauce that keeps financial conflicts at bay and your relationship thriving on a foundation of shared understanding and trust. Woo! We've covered a lot of ground today, folks, looking at 11 different ways you and your partner can approach the often tricky world of managing money together. From the straightforward 50-50 split to more customized hybrid approaches and the crucial importance of shared goals and regular communication, my hope is that you found some real food for thought here. Remember, there's no magic bullet, no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to couple finances. What works wonders for one couple might be a recipe for disaster for another. The journey to financial harmony is deeply personal and unique to each relationship. It's about sitting down with your partner, having those honest, sometimes tough, but absolutely necessary conversations about your values, your individual financial histories, your current income realities, and your dreams for the future. It's about choosing a system or crafting your own that feels fair, sustainable, and supportive of both your individual well-being and your collective strength as a unit. Don't be afraid to try something, and if it's not working, have the courage to adjust it. Like I always emphasize, ultimately, the key to a fair and harmonious financial arrangement is finding a method that works for both partners and reflects their values, income, and relationship dynamics. By discussing and agreeing on an approach, couples can create a sense of shared responsibility and equality, while also allowing for individual freedom and financial autonomy as long as neither party is greedy. This isn't just about numbers, it's about building trust, fostering teamwork, and creating a financial foundation that allows your relationship to truly prosper. Thank you for joining me, Apostle Shalaman, and I pray these insights bless your journey towards financial peace.